Monday, June 1st. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, documentation.
Let's do this.
So the other day, I slipped out of work for a long lunch. Now, I often take a short lunch, but I decided time for a long lunch. So I walk over to Bryant Park, and I get myself a baguette of some kind.
Bryant Park, where most people are not eating lunch, they're working.
Bryant Park. You know, it's true. I mean, I go to Bryant Park, and it's just people with laptops, like half of them
Yeah, I
from
mean,
my
because
office.
right, there are many parks in New York City, right? But Bryant Park has an incredible abundance of chairs and tables.
It is on 42nd Street,
Right.
well, near 42nd
Yes.
Street at Midtown.
It's near a whole bunch of office buildings, and Google has covered the whole thing in Wi-Fi that is free and easily accessible without any bullshit.
That Wi-Fi is so overloaded. I use my Verizon card when I'm there.
I know, right? But as a result of the excessive number of tables and chairs and also the Google Wi-Fi, a lot of people just go work there. Freelancers, people who just want to get out of the office.
Hey, if I
tons
were
of
a
people.
gigger, if I lived in Manhattan,
Old guys who play chess.
if I lived in Manhattan and I were a gigger or a freelancer or worked for myself, Bryant
or
Park,
even if you're just a telecommuter who also lived in the city.
Bryant Park would be my office 9 months out of the year.
Well, it does get cold.
No, it doesn't.
Woman.
Never gets cold.
It gets cold.
It'll never get
The
cold
thing is,
again.
once it's cold, they build an ice rink there, so you know to stop working.
But then I can ice skate.
Yes, but you will not get any monies.
I made a critical mistake. I walked out and I didn't bring any entertainment with me like I usually do. I just forgot my bag, so I
Well,
didn't
you
have my
could buy
DS.
some entertainment very easily.
Well, no, I
Or you
decided.
could walk around.
I decided to just sit there and enjoy my lunch and think.
Uh-oh.
And of course, because I'm unoccupied,
You don't have an iPod or a laptop.
I'm just sitting there in a comfortable chair, staring out over the park, going, and eating my hummus and ham baguette.
That means that if there are peoples about, they can see that you do not have headphones, which means you can hear what they are saying.
These two kids, they were like 19, made a beeline for me. I could see them from across the park.
Oh shit!
And they're walking directly at me and talking to each other and kind of looking at me. It's like, all right, what's this? Are these listeners? Do they recognize me? Am I about to get mugged? What's going on?
There's troubles brewing.
And they come up and they're real
They're called
friendly.
Dynamite Heady.
And right about now is when my missionary alert goes off.
Ooh, anyone who's too friendly must be religious.
You know what? That has never been not the case, with the possible exception of some mentally not so there people who were friendly for other reasons. I've had that situation. The crazy friendly
Join
guy.
me. We will start a new kingdom.
I too have lost a kingdom.
It's actually, it's sort of scary. Like, just in general, anyone who's too friendly, it's usually bad news. I mean, when I was in summer camp, right, when I was a counselor, they had this sort of mandatory training where they taught you, because, pedophiles like to become summer camp counselors, right? So they trained all the counselors. They basically said, this is how to identify a pedophile, short of actually seeing them being a pedophile, right?
All right.
And they said, watch out for people who are scarily friendly.
Well, scarily is the point, because I've noticed.
They also said that if you are a pedophile, just leave now and we won't say anything. Just get up and go. And, not at the meeting, but, just...
Yeah, so Joey Jojo doesn't show up to the next meeting after that.
Well, no, it's just, they said, after this meeting, just, leave camp and we won't, that'll be it. And no one left.
Is it that much of a problem?
It's a significant thing. I think this time I have sort of law, actually, that makes it mandatory at all the summer camps.
What, mandatory pedophiles?
No, a mandatory pedophile avoidance training.
But scarily is the key, because some people are just really friendly, and those people never set off any alarms for me. But there are people who are friendly in the uncanny valley of friendliness. It is either too far beyond what is reasonable for friendly, or just short of actually friendly. And these people reeked of that, the too far, to a frightening degree. And they're being really friendly, and they're like, hey, so what are you up to? And I was like, I'm sitting here enjoying my baguette. I'm being real friendly too. I've got the smile that... You've seen this smile before.
I did not bring entertainment. Look, Lo, there must be a God. He has brought entertainment unto me.
This was the smile of that guy at the Anime Con who was arguing with the crazy Jesus guy outside of Anime Boston.
That guy at the Anime Con wasn't smiling. I think he was a stupid teenager who thought that he was gonna,
I don't know. When he walked up, he had the smile. It's hard to say.
I don't know.
The smile might have gone away. I don't know, but. So I'm humoring them. I'm enjoying this conversation. They haven't brought up religion yet at all. For like 5 minutes, no religion, but I know it's coming. I am so sure it's coming. And then they're like, yeah, so we're new to the city. We're missionaries. Ding, 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 ding. And we're conducting
Really? I'm on a mission too, to Mars.
We're conducting a survey. We're just trying to ask people about their lives and about what they're up to kind of get a feel for New York. We're not from around here.
Really? I haven't noticed.
So I'm like, oh, where are you from?
You're friendly.
I just engaged them straight up because I got about 48 minutes to kill.
Oh, shit. That's a lot of time to fuck
Basically,
them up.
I was willing to entertain anything they had to say for the next 48 minutes, and they were not going to get away from me politely.
Uh-oh.
So, and there's like, oh, well, I'm from Michigan. And oh, I know Michigan. And I had a lot of anecdotes back and forth, and I kept them talking for a while. And then their first question is like, so how do you feel about our mission that we should all be one family under God with no prejudice against anyone and everyone's just cool with everyone? And I was like, I'm for all of that, but there's no God. And the guy's like, oh, really? Well, how did you come to that? Like, why do you believe that there's no God? And I was like, you know what? To be honest, for the last 8,000 years of human history, there's never been a single recorded instance of anything supernatural of any kind in any capacity ever. And then I started explaining the James Randi Foundation. And at this point, I realized that this was one of these people is the seasoned missionary who was training the other one how to do this. And the one who was being trained was fucked. Because everything I said, I would get him to agree with it. Because logic always wins. So at one point, I was like, how do you feel about homosexuals? And he's like, well, they're people too. And while I don't agree with what they do, they should be free. He's really backpedaling here. But in the end, I push him into agreeing that they should have equal rights. So then I'm like, so how about the right to marry? And he's like, well, and I'm like, because you really can't deny that and still say that it's equal and still say, and he basically, after a lot of hemming and hawing, is like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. We really should let him get married. We can't really justifiably. And that's when the other guy interrupts him. He's like, we got to go. And he just wraps this up and drags the kid away. I don't know if I opened someone's mind, but it was somewhat hilarious. And then I had another half hour to eat because they left.
Oh.
I wanted him to stay. I wanted to convince both of them. I wanted to talk to them.
Well, that proves that A, there was a God, and he was coming to check on you, and he found out, right? He was giving you a chance. He gave you some entertainment, but then he found out that you were still against him, so he took your entertainment away.
Luckily, a chipmunk came out. I was good for the rest of lunch.
It was a chipmunk in Bryant Park, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of chipmunks in Bryant Park.
Wow, where do they live?
I don't know. And they come and they run around and kids feed them.
The pigeons don't dominate?
Chipmunks are faster than pigeons.
I don't know, but a chicken can peck the chipmunk and chicken. Yeah. All right. I had a tiny, quick experience on the train this morning. I'm sitting in one of the four-seaters, and in the four-seater across from me is a fat lady.
Wait. Now,
two fat ladies,
wait.
in fact.
Now, much like how my "these people are missionaries" sense went off, was this person indignant?
I didn't even notice them, right? Some guy basically some guy walks up and he starts like he looks at me and he asks me something, and I got my etymologics in, so I'm just like sleeping. But then he asks the fat lady something, so I'm looking at him because suddenly there's something to pay attention to, right? And I pull one of the headphones out and he's like, something beeping something, and I see that one of the fat ladies has a cell phone, and I sort of figured out pretty quickly she was playing a video game on her cell phone that was making lots of beeping noises, and she wasn't turning the sound off. So then another guy, right? This guy goes to sit down. Someone else comes up and asks her to hey, turn it off, right? Indignancy, activate.
Oh my god!
And the indignancy passed. The indignancy of the fat lady playing the video game passed to the other fat lady, so it's like they double activated the indignancy.
Wait, so the person who wasn't playing the game was indignant now?
Yes.
Why? Were they friends?
No, she just she got indignant and she just started talking in indignant talk while everyone else was sitting, right? And she eventually activated the indignant talk in the other fat lady after a time.
You know what? Maybe there must be some sort of API for this.
Yeah, the conductor eventually came and he's like, "What's the problem?"
Oh, you know
indignant.
You know what? I gotta say, this is why I love New York and why I love Metro North. Because if someone is annoying on the train, the conductor will come and make them shut the fuck up.
And the conductor, he was basically just like, fuck this shit, and he just left. He's like, I don't give a fuck this. Luckily, the original indignant lady got off of Croton Harmon.
Oh.
The other indignant lady remained indignant for maybe a minute or two and just talked to herself indignantly.
What do you say? Well, the thing is, I know exactly what they said.
I don't know what they said because I had my etymologics in. All I heard was...
Well, first they'll huff. They'll be like... And then they'll be like... I don't know why you people are so rude. Why do people have to be so rude? Why can't people just be calm?
And then they shut up for the rest of the ride. That's it.
I've noticed a trend lately, though. A lot of people, if I take a later train home...
I wanted to see someone try to hit the conductor and go to jail for 7 years.
I've seen people get close.
Over a cell phone video game.
This old guy, when I used to take the train from the Bronx...
Man, that's a death sentence for an old guy.
This guy was like 90. And he had a cane. And he's sitting there. And the conductor is like... you got to pay more. The senior citizens discount doesn't count on peak trains.
That's
during
right.
Rush hour.
That's right, old man. Pay the full price.
And the old man's like, I'm not paying and you can't make me. And the conductor's like, I'll call the police.
You're going to jail.
And the guy raises his cane and the conductor just says, go for it.
He said, go for it?
He said, go for it.
All right, yeah. That's awesome. Go for it.
That's second only to and they're off.
And they're off.
Okay. So it's Monday. It's Tech Day.
Tech Day.
Welcome to all you new people from Anime Boston. I'm sure some of you accidentally listened to this show.
There's by the way, I'm going to say this on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, June 5th and 6th?
5, 6.
5 and 6, Mocha Arts Festival, New York City, something or other armory. It moved. It's not in the Puck building anymore.
We'll link to it again. We'll probably be there Saturday.
If you go to Google and you search for MOCCA Arts Festival, you will find it.
We will probably be there Saturday. If we have stuff going on that weekend, if that fails, we'll be there Sunday no matter what.
What are we going on this weekend?
Bunch of people might be coming over and then going to the Mocha with us.
Well, that's Saturday then.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. You only need to go one day.
Yes.
There's so few panels that unless you really want to go to a panel one day and a panel the other day, there's not much of a reason to go both days.
Well, my plan though is I was thinking I want to do karaoke with the group, but I also want to go see the World of Darkness before they shut it down.
Which is already closed.
Oh,
It's been, apparently, they didn't even give you a lead. They were just like, yeah, it's closing. Plus, you wouldn't have time to see the World of Darkness and do the Mocha in one day.
I would.
Unless you went to, like, way early. It depends what time the Mocha opens. Because the Mocha opens, you could go to it early enough, then go to the World of Darkness, and depending on when the zoo closes, stay late. But
see, it doesn't matter when you go to the Mocha because I never go to panels. I just walk to every single table and look at every single thing.
Exactly.
And then I leave.
Yep.
And if someone cool like Jason is there, I stand in line to giggle like a schoolgirl while he draws something for me.
Okay.
That was basically what we did.
So
I had the microphone on. It's just
there's like a million tech newses, but we're not doing a tech news roundup, so we had to choose just two.
Not gonna talk about Bing.
No, not okay. Ready? Here, real quick. Bing is a Google clone, and it's not significantly better than Google, so it has no use.
All right.
If people are going to use it for a little bit because it's new and it's in the news, and then they're going to forget about it.
Yep. The only thing I want to say right now is AOL Time Warner finally, and well, I actually want to talk about the Palm Pre. So
okay, so real news. Google Wave.
All right. So I was at work. We were all at work when the news of this appeared. And I saw the Slashdot article, and I was like, all right, Google Wave. That's probably something stupid I don't care about.
Whoa!
And like an hour later, I have some time before I go to lunch, so I click on the article. And then I click on the thing, and I start watching the video. And suddenly it's like, wait a minute, what is this? So I go back and actually read what it is.
So Google Wave, basically, I am really, I usually I'm so the cynical saying that's gonna be poop. That ain't gonna do shit, right? Google Wave, I think, is gonna change everything.
Well, here's the main reason why. Unlike other things that have high potential that never reach it, this is something that has potential that I alone can force it to reach, even if no one else does.
Yep.
I can make it reach that potential for me.
Ram, guess what? Else. Guess what I have? You know what I have?
What do you have?
A vision.
You have a vision.
I have a vision.
We haven't had a vision in over a year.
Here's my vision.
What's
you ready?
your vision, Scott?
So right now, the way the internets and the webs work, right, is where you put things up and they sort of stay there, and then people get them, right? What I think's gonna happen with the wave, right, is everyone is going to like make this like stream of shit. Like it's all these faucets, right? So it's like basically it's the web, but with kinetic energy. Everything is moving all the time, you know? And then you'll sort of, everyone will also be sort of, in addition to, you know, spiggoting out materials constantly, you know, streaming such, there will also be many, many ways of filtering and funneling and sifting said, waterfalls into, different streams for the viewing. And I think that is where we are headed from where we are now. So it's going to be like, like Twitter, right? Is just 140 characters of text. Think like Twitter times a billion, and also not just text, also video and everything in the world.
Well,
and audio and pictures and everything.
There's so much potential, and like, if nothing else, like I could see using this for collaboration on like role-playing games, Geeknights collaboration, us planning episodes. I could even see sharing a wave if we were doing teleconferencing. Like, say we do like 3 different people do a Geeknights episode, and we share a wave while we're doing it.
Imagine if there was like, you could somehow integrate like the wave and some Skype, or maybe some GoToMeeting, or maybe some, who
screw
knows
WebEx.
what.
This is the end of WebEx if I get this thing going the way I expect I can get it going.
All right, and I try, I can just keep thinking of, I think what's going to happen also, right, is that there are a lot of protocols out there, right? Twitter API, XMPP, Jabber, email, YouTube, right? A lot of these protocols underlying things. I think a lot of existing applications are going to be able to use Wave as the back-end protocol. And as a result, it's going to, sort of achieve what XMPP was supposed to achieve, right? It's just not enough people are using it. Like, imagine, it's IM. You could have an IM client. It works exactly like every other IM client does today. You don't even notice. But instead of all the messages going over XMPP or AOL or whatever, they're going through some Wave somewhere. And that, from your point of view, it doesn't matter. You're just using your IM client. But because it's wave powered, all this shit is going on in the back, and it's totally awesome. And apply that to like anything and everything.
It allows this kind of constant sideband communication that is so much more full featured than anything we have now. I'm gonna like totally make so many JPEGs for wave things. You have no idea. We didn't even tell that story. We should save that.
We're gonna save that story.
We should save that.
But there's
suffice it to say, you can solve any problem with a JPEG.
Yeah, but I want to reiterate. Actually, the twit this weekend was like the best twit I think possibly ever.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I should listen to it.
Yeah.
Did they talk about the wave?
They talk about the wave some.
Hey, by the way,
one thing that they pointed out that I thought was like the most insightful thing, right? It's sort of something but you don't know it until someone says it, right? Is you look at right now, we got the Bing, which you just talked about, right?
Bing.
What does Microsoft do? They make Bing a product for you to use. What is Google? They make a platform upon for which you to build.
That was quite a sentence.
I know, wasn't it? Right? So, and look, right? I mean, the Wave is made by the Google Maps guys, right? Perhaps Google's third most successful thing after search and Gmail.
I was about to say Gmail.
Right? It's, of course, actually Maps is sort of equal to Gmail. Maybe it even beats it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing is, the only reason I don't rank Google Maps as high as it could be is that it still doesn't have good driving directions compared to MapQuest.
That's true. But the actual rest of it is perfect, right?
Yeah,
and
I use
the
those
Google Maps guys, they made the Wave, and they talked about how the best time in their lives was like in 2005 when everyone was making Google Maps mashups. So now they're going to be so thrilled that everyone's making the Wave mashups. It's going to be like the new best time in their lives. One other thing I want to say, I think it's kind of scary. They called it the wave because not only is wave a good metaphor for how it functions.
It's also the name of a great movie
It's
from
also the
1981.
movie.
I was going to make a wave
Which is
joke.
very relevant.
I can't believe you beat me to the wave joke.
How could I not? It's obvious.
I reckon maybe I should use the book for that as the book club.
I didn't know there was a book for that.
It was based on
Wasn't
a
there
book.
a TV movie?
That's the movie you're thinking of.
But I think I went on IMDb looking for it, actually.
And they remade it in 2008.
Yes. What the fuck's up with that?
I didn't watch it. Let's look up the remake. I'm curious what the deal is with that. But
All right, we'll have to do some more research on the wave, but watch
wave.
out. Watch out for the wave. It's going to blow you over. You'll drown if you don't swim. Maybe get a surfboard. I'm getting a surfboard in advance. That's what I'm doing.
So, speaking of surfboards,
Boat.
the Palm Pre, which we talked about how this is make or break for Sprint. This is make or break for Palm.
Actually, Verizon made a dick move. Basically, they're exclusive to Sprint for 6 months.
Yep.
So Verizon's pretty much like, yeah, we have that shit in 6 months. And basically in January, you know there's going to be a Verizon Pre.
I know.
Guaranteed. So it's sort of like this dick move because, like, sure, okay, dick over Sprint. I don't really care, right? But basically, Palm just needs to sell as many Pre's as they can.
See, at the
but
same
if people
time-
are holding out until January, that's going to hurt Palm big time.
At the same time, if they do it this way, here's my guess. Palm might be brilliant. They might have let Sprint pay out of its asshole for the rights to the 6-month exclusive. And simultaneously, they didn't make that many, and they pushed the schedule and just, they put it as early as they could, and they only made enough.
No, because Palm wants to sell as many as they can. They don't care who the fucking carrier is.
No, but here's the thing. You only make enough now, so you can have the release early, but when you're actually going to have enough to sell is 6 months later, and you now get 2 release hypes. At 6-month intervals.
Maybe.
So it'll get the hype when it comes out.
The second hype will probably just be when there's a big software update that makes significant changes.
Well, the thing is, the second hype could be the Verizon hype because remember, they're also
if
leaving
they can
out,
time the firmware update with the Verizon release, that would be big.
They're leaving out one feature that they have probably already got this feature, and they're leaving it out only to add it at the 6-month interval. This is my totally, pulling out of nowhere guess. Visual voicemail is not part of the initial release.
Oh, well, they're gonna add that in.
Yes, but if they
that's not a huge deal though. That's not like a game changer.
It's a huge deal for me.
It's cool, but it's not a game changer.
Well, for me, it is like visual voicemail is something that
it's pretty awesome.
I need,
but it's not a game changer
because I don't listen to my voicemail ever.
I know, right?
Like I hate.
I love the visual voicemail. I'm not knocking it, but it's like. It's not.
No, but
it's big, but it's not super big.
If I were Palm, I would have done this, and I would release the firmware update for visual voicemail the same day that it is available for Verizon.
It's a good idea.
Maybe 2 days before I say, "Hey."
You got to have some other features in that firmware update though to get the big hype.
Yeah, but
it's got to be features that no one else has.
But there is a lot of new. I mean, normally I would talk about the pre after the fact, and the only reason I care is that I didn't buy the Android or the iPhone. This is the third one. If I don't buy this one, I'm gonna have to buy one of the other two because I need a smartphone. I can't go any longer without a smartphone. I need it now.
You're not gonna continue your plan of wait for the perfect thing?
Well, here's the thing. I might still wait, but the pre is almost there because the news that came out a little while ago is that supposedly it will synchronize with iTunes, and not just synchronize, because you can use other MP3 players with iTunes. Supposedly, I will be able to synchronize it with iTunes as though it were an iPod with all the features.
I don't know if it'll have all the features, because see, the thing is...
it might not have... Well, one, it won't have the old DRM.
That's for sure.
I don't care about that.
No, who cares?
Right. And it might not have the play, pause, play again between all my devices.
Exactly.
But it might, because supposedly the story is they got old Apple engineers.
Well, think about it. The guy who was in charge of the pre was the guy who pretty much quote invented the iPod. He was like the hardware lead at Apple.
Yes, but Palm basically came out and said, "Yeah, we pretty much reverse engineered it." And as far as anyone can tell, it pretends to be like a Generation 4 iPod in all respects.
Let me steal from another podcast. I'll steal from the GDGT podcast this time, which I also listened to today, right? Basically, what's going to happen here, right, is Palm stole all these Apple people. They come out with this phone that synchronizes with iTunes. Okay, right? So obviously there's some sort of legal thing going on here,
now,
right?
Here's two things. My reading of this is that one, Palm probably has a patent portfolio, the likes of which IBM would have trouble
Apple
fighting.
also has a patent portfolio.
Yes, but if two companies have equally deadly patent portfolios, the only thing that comes out of that is an automatic cross-license.
Here's the thinking that the GDTT guys came up with.
All right, because I have a second thinking.
Their thinking is that Apple's like, we're going to get you, and Palm is like, bring it. Because what's going to happen, right, is if Apple brings it, Palm is going to be like, oh, look, they're afraid of competition. Yeah, they got to bring us down with the law because they can't beat us by making something better. Yeah. And it's gonna be a big, searing bon mot.
If Palm and Sprint were really brilliant, and there's no way this is true. This is my if I were them.
Mm-hmm.
What I would have done is set this up to fail, and as soon as Apple goes after me, and I'd even make it to where Apple can trivially go after me, what I would do is then say, all right, have a big press release, be like, look, Apple won't let us sync to the iTunes store. Here's
what Amazon did to the book people?
Well, I would say, here's our store, and anyone can sell on it and set any prices they want.
Mm.
And I mean, all the details.
Yeah, that's a little bit out there.
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't matter.
And it's not, see what it is really, it's not about the store, really. What it is that people manage their media, right? Mostly with iTunes is the most popular one. And the problem with selling anyone a new portable music device like a Zune or something is that it's a pain in the ass to switch what desktop program you're using to manage your media library.
Yep.
So allowing people to continue to use iTunes to manage their media library is a huge boost. I mean, just the difficulty of switching to something else is what keeps a lot of people from switching away from iPod, partially myself included.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
there's more here. I don't think Apple's going to go after him in the end.
Oh, you don't think so?
Well, here's the reasons. One, patent portfolio. Palm and Apple can fuck each other to death with their patents.
Yeah.
And while Apple could take Palm down, they would take a serious beating, I think, in the patent world.
I think that basically...
But two, Apple, while they make a ton of money with their markups on their hardware... They also make money on the iTunes store. And if this thing can buy stuff from the iTunes store...
Apple's it can, yeah. You can buy stuff from the iTunes store and then put it on...
Apple's going to make its money
if it's not DRM free. Oh, it's true. Apple should be sort of happy with that. That's what Palm will come back with.
Yes, because the other thing...
Hey, music people, Apple is like, we made a device that's very popular and people are buying music from you to put on our... Yeah.
And that's
a good one.
That is what brings me to my third reason Apple's not going to attack them. If Apple brings them down, everyone else now has a lot more standing for antitrust against Apple.
Well, it's always still a lot. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see lawyers on all the three sides. Basically, they're going to mill for a whole bunch of months, maybe 6 to 12 months, right? Until each set of lawyers figures out the perfect attack plan, and then they're going to execute.
I don't think Apple is going to attack.
I think they will if their lawyers figure out something that they know is a lock.
Yes,
they're not going to go into it. They're not going to rush in.
Well,
they're going to wait to the perfect legal strategy.
It is my guess that Apple's lawyers are going to realize that Palm's portfolio... Because remember, Palm was making PDAs when PDAs mattered. Palm is like this... They have so many crazy patents for obvious things that they're just keeping. I'm sure they've got this gigantic secret portfolio of doom just ready to come out.
There's a big chess game going on. It's just fun for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the I can't talk a lot about it other than that all their...
Because we've never seen one, nor does barely anyone has
all
one.
Of the initial reviews I see are that the multi-touch screen is... as good or so close that it doesn't matter to being as good as the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gestures at the bottom separate from the screen.
Yep.
That's really cool. Like I saw a video of how that works.
I saw that. It's pretty good.
It leaves like that trail where you moved your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
Yep.
It's got a real keyboard.
Yep.
That is like killer for me. And while people who have touched it said the keyboard sucks, those people qualify that by saying that it's about as good as a BlackBerry keyboard.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fine. BlackBerry's fine.
A keyboard, no mobile keyboard is great. Like maybe some of them are, but a keyboard is better than no keyboard.
Well, you know what? Because I looked at the kind of keyboard they use, and I went to a Verizon store and found a keyboard that has a similar keyboard, a similar phone. Mm-hmm. It's not the same. It was bigger, and it wasn't the same thing. But I tried it, and I realized everyone who has problems with this keyboard either has really, really fat thumbs.
A lot of people.
or they cut their fingernails too short because I realized that I type with my fingernails on phones.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And you know what? Because this is a givey plasticky thing instead of a solid plasticky thing, I think I'll be able to type lightning fast.
No, it's definitely better than the on-screen keyboard. That's for sure.
I guess my guess is that
Oh, maybe the new iPhone will have the keyboard.
Maybe. The only other complaint I see people saying is that this thing is way too light, which that's not a complaint.
No.
So I am probably going to buy one unless I'm.
The thing is, what you could do is just get one, right? And if it sucks, you have 30 days to just bail.
Yeah.
That's usually how that thing works.
The thing is, I looked, my Verizon contract ends on the 20th of this month.
All right.
So I gotta wait until the end of the month.
Waiting is fun.
Which is fine because that'll give me enough time for the internet to point out like, oh, you'll snap
You
it
also
in
won't have
half.
to wait in these stupid lines, probably.
Yep. However, I have some secret Radio Shacks. Because remember, it's not $200. It's like $400 or $500, and then
You
there's
got a rebate.
Best Buy
also, yeah.
and Radio Shack will give you the rebate at the store right then.
Ooh.
And I
well,
know
there's that in New York City. They have those Best Buy mobile stores.
Yes.
Those are good.
And there are like 5 places within walking distance of my work that'll have it. So I might just get it and get a new phone number. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would wait it out.
I might wait.
It's a lot. It's pain in the ass to changing a phone number versus what at most a month.
The other option is waiting for the Verizon plan.
Not a bad idea either.
But I kind of want to switch to the Sprint plan because for what I would get, it looks like it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going, if you're only in places, Sprint, is not the greatest.
I would
but
argue,
they
having had a Sprint phone forever until relatively recently when I switched to Verizon, Sprint had a great network and good prices and terrible customer service.
Yeah,
Verizon
but their
has,
network, is fast.
Yeah,
and
I mean, this thing's it's 3G. It's FDU Revision A.
Yeah, it's not bad, and it works, and the coverage is good enough in places where we are.
I've never run into a problem with Sprint coverage in my entire life.
And they have $100 for the unlimited everything. So whatever.
It's $70 for effectively the unlimited everything because the only thing you lose there is you only get like 400 minutes of talking.
Oh no!
I used
that's like what I have on my iPhone. The thing is, it actually comes out to $90 after all the bullshit fees.
I used I think 19 minutes last month.
Yeah, I don't use any minutes. All right.
Plus multitasking. Oh yeah. Anyway.
Okay. There's a whole million more tech news that we don't have time to discuss. We'll save them for later.
Because it is time for Things of the Day. What do you got for me, Scott?
This isn't an awesome thing like most people would be expecting, like a funny video or some such. This is a piece of software called DNS Mask, DNS MASQ, right? And what this is I wish I would have discovered it earlier, right? It's a DNS server, but it's also a DHCP server, and it's also a TFTP server, right? So, if you've got, say, a small home network, right? And you want to give your computers names, so that you can do stuff like SSH space, name of computer in the living room, or ping space, name of computer in the bedroom.
This is one of those situations of IT person versus CS person solving a problem, or expert in a field versus expert in another field who just wants to make the field they're not an expert in work because they can do their real work.
Yeah, or if you want to have some local DNS caching, because the other DNS servers are not trustworthy.
Scott comes to me and he's like, "How do I do this? How do I just have a local DNS?" And I was like, "Just run bind locally and make a config."
Yeah, run the gigantic DNS server of full power with 100 configuration files.
Thing is, bind has one tiny configuration file, and it's actually tiny.
Yeah. This is pretty much your answer here.
CS guy just wrote something that does what bind does.
The best thing about the DNS mask is that it's mainly designed for a small home network with NAT, to run everything on the inside of the NAT in terms of DNS, DHCP, and such. But it is also very good to just install it on your computer, and then you can use it to sort of give you DNS for all the virtual machines you're running. So if you're like a developer like me and you've got all these virtual machines, you can use this to sort of DNS all of them, and you can do cool stuff like, it basically gives you a host file on crack. So you can do stuff like star dot whatever and point every possible subdomain at the same IP address. which is very, very helpful if you're doing like a virtual machine with virtual hosts. You know, if you understand what I'm saying, then you will understand why this is useful to you. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, then you have no interest in this
care.
You don't. There's no point in you figuring it out.
What I will say though,
because it's already not useful to you if you don't know what I'm talking about.
if you are in college and you think that you can use this instead of Bind for DNS, you're wrong.
It's not a real DNS server replacement. It's meant for, you know, a small home network or an individual computer just to, you know,
this is a tool that fixes an IT problem for a developer. This does not solve your DNS problem.
If you have a home network, it's good. It's not good if you have a real network. It's very bad.
So the Wrong Door, as far as I can tell, do these skits, you know, funny humor sketches that involve a lot of CG.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this one pretty amusing, and it reminded me of Dave and Joel because it involves dinosaurs. It's just, look, I think they're parodying either some generic show, or maybe there's a specific show in Britain they're parodying. Albion, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. But it is just a typical, you know, guy and girl. The girl is breaking up with the guy in the short term and then has a flashback montage of all the good times they had together. But it's a velociraptor or a baby T-Rex or something like that, and I found this incredibly funny.
I didn't think it was that funny.
Scott doesn't find anything funny that is not immediately blisteringly funny. Like if a YouTube video is 20 seconds long, he's skipping to the end to see what happens.
Yeah.
I found this
wasn't funny in any part.
I think it was.
I don't think it was.
Well, listeners, what do you think? Was that funny or not?
Oh, they're easily amused. They think we're funny.
I see you've taken a page from the Pendulette self-deprecating humor at all turns.
Gasp. I steal from the Forgotten Masters.
Pen's forgotten?
Yes. Okay.
So, how do you document things? This is not a trivial question, sadly.
Yeah, basically I want to do a little we're going to do a series of shows here because there's sort of like this suite of applications that businesses need these days, especially businesses with tech people. And they're all these separate tools that need some amount of integration with each other, and they're all related, but they're also distinct. And those tools are the ticketing system, the project and task management system, the documentation wiki type thing, and what's the other one? Oh, the version control type systems if you have some sort of code going on.
Well, that's easy. Git.
Right, but you know, so you've got all these sort of things going on, right? And we want to sort of spend a show on each one of these to talk about, because basically they all suck. Oh, time tracking is also sort of in there with the project management bit.
Yep.
They all suck. There are no good ones out there. And we are constantly in our jobs dealing with bad ones, good ones, picking ones out, making ones. And it's never perfect, right? So we want to dedicate some showtime to these pieces of software.
Let's look at. I have 4 use cases, I guess, or 4 scenarios of me as an IT professional trying to have things be documented in any capacity.
Well, I mean, the first thing you got to talk about though is the difference between like software documentation from the like developer side.
Oh crap!
And then,
yeah. Well,
look,
I did a discussion like this with a developer not that long ago, where I basically said, we need a system to document things, and you guys got to write documentation. You could probably put it in our Twiki. And the guy's like, for documentation, we use Doxygen, and I was like, that does not solve the problem I'm solving,
right? So,
in any capacity.
So for people who don't know, right, like when you're writing software, right, you'll put comments in the code, which is just like notes that don't actually do anything in the code.
This for loop doesn't do anything.
Right. Yeah, you just write in the middle of your code words that explain the code and help you understand it. So, what people will do is they'll sort of have these documentation systems where in front of every function, in front of every class, you will put comments in some particular format. And then you'll run some program that will generate sort of websites that, you know, document the code. So, you know, if I have a class, you know, and I write what the class does, and I write what the arguments to all the functions are, and then I put the comments in the file and I push a button, and then there's a website, so someone else who wants to, say, work on my source code or integrate with it, right, can just go to that website and it explains the code so that they don't actually have to look at the code. All the information they need is sort of like the interface, the API parts, right? So that is that's one kind of documentation. But systems for that kind of documentation are actually very prevalent, and there's quite a few good ones out there, and it varies by language and such. The thing is, a lot of people don't, it takes a really good people to actually use them. I mean, I haven't actually gotten into a place that uses it fully and properly since I was in college, and we used it in college. So, it's one of those things where it's like on paper, you should do it. Some people do it. I've never done it. Just because, you never do things that, you only know there's a right way to do things, but you never actually end up doing it that way.
Yep.
Just because the realities of the world crush your soul.
Look at 99% of these scripts I've written in the course of my professional career to do something on a server for me. If you put the wrong argument in, it'll just crash, and there's no error handling.
Yeah. Anyway.
But my 4 cases are first, at RIT, doing IT projects with other students for grades. We took notes on pieces of paper, and we handed these scribbled documents into professors. We never referred to them. We didn't document anything. IBM, everyone there was actually pretty smart. They had a documentation server. It was just a Windows box running IIS.
All right.
And you just made documentation in HTML or text, and you put it up there. And then you added it to this hierarchy. It was basically the equivalent of
a file server.
It was a file server, but it served the purpose of a wiki. It wasn't a good way to go about it, but it kind of encouraged this sort of, you put up complete awesome documentation as opposed to half-assed, barely finished documentation. Then I worked at Emerging Health, the hospital thing. There was no documentation for anything, anywhere.
So how did you know how things worked?
I would have to ask people.
Okay. And
then I would write documentation for myself, which became one of the most sought-after commodities in the history of that company. And the problem there, though, was that I kept saying, we need a wiki, we need a wiki, we need a wiki, we need a documentation server, we need something. And they always said, no, and then I quit. And then, where I work now, we had a Twiki wiki, which MediaWiki seems to be the popular wiki among people who want to set up a wiki.
The fact is that all wikis suck.
They all suck. Good God, they
Every
suck.
wiki sucks.
Google's is probably the least shitty, but it still has its problems.
Yep.
But they're all terrible. Most people seem to know MediaWiki and use it because it has a lot of extensions and features. Twiki seems to be used primarily by enterprise people. I think Twiki is better in the ways that matter, but MediaWiki is still good. I think they're equal but different. And theoretically, a wiki seems to solve the documentation problem because people just write all of their documentation and the structure of the wiki just emerges if everyone's smart.
I mean, in my last company, we knew documentation was the way to go and we wanted it. We never actually wrote enough of it, but we did set up a DocuWiki. It was actually a wiki for documentation called DocuWiki. It wasn't amazing by any means, it was sort of an average wiki, but it was meant for documentation and it had, some good versioning type features and such like that, which is good. And we wrote some documentation in it, but we didn't write enough, and now they're out of business.
Well, I guess the problem I've really found is that it's really easy to get technical people to write documentation. As long as you give them time to do it, project managers seem to always forget that they need to allocate like 10% of a project to documentation and knowledge
That
transfer.
is true. It's like, I could never write documentation because I always had to do work,
Yep. So if any of you are ever in a position to manage tech people, get whatever your project is, give them 10% of the time for documentation and knowledge transfer. You will make the best projects ever if you
You'll
do
also
that.
be easier to fire people and hire new people with more skills.
But don't tell them that.
No.
Because then they won't document.
No, they will.
Maybe.
If they have the skills and they're going to write, if they're writing good documentation, right? Because they don't write good documentation, is useless.
I knew a guy at IBM who purposefully did not write documentation so that he could not be fired.
Bad.
That was his stated goal.
Wow. I think that's what he said to sound sort of smart and witty and clever, but
No,
really,
that was his goal.
he was lazy and didn't want to write documentation.
No, that was his goal. He would refuse to give me the answers I needed to write the program that was going to replace his job. And then I quit.
Okay.
But the problems I've run into is that you need, it's not just tech stuff. If you just look at tech stuff, the documentation problem is pretty easy to handle. If it's just tech people writing tech documentation, you set up like a Twiki wiki, you make a good skeleton structure of some kind. Like, you make a hierarchy of what the documentation
tech people
will be
will be
ahead of
smart
time.
enough to make it work, even if the system is not perfect.
But you need other people to write documentation. You need the HR.
You also need other
people.
people to read the documentation and be
Yep.
able to understand and such and such.
And I don't want to, basically, I just want to point out that there's no good way to do this that exists in any capacity as far as I can see.
Yeah, remember, let's for a minute, right? This documentation we're talking about, it's not the software documentation. This is it's the business documentation. For example, this is the process for doing this. These are the steps you take. One, 2, 3.
I want to get a new fixed connection for a customer. What are the processes? Or I want to get a new customer on our platform. What are all the steps? And
it's sort of like, the user manuals for things. So think about it, when you have a company, right? You go to the store and you buy something. It comes with an instruction manual, right? Well, companies have a lot of things that are specific to them, right? Some guy makes a piece of software that is for internal use at your company. The only place the software will ever be used is your company using it for itself. That needs an instruction manual. So that's the kind of documentation we're talking about, is how do you use the systems and what's the network look like? What IP addresses are these things on?
Yep.
And,
Now,
all that kind of shit.
The thing that I really find interesting is that different groups seem to and across every company I've seen, document things the same wrong way. And it's always the scenario of, if all you have is a hammer, you're nailing every goddamn thing into whatever you're trying to put it into.
Hit that screw real hard.
Hit that carburetor, make it go.
You broke it.
I mean, every HR department I've ever seen has a Samba share on some Windows server somewhere. And on that Samba share are all these Word documents and PDFs explaining scans of physical documents.
That's better than a physical document.
Yes, but they tell people, go to the D drive. And on the D drive, you will find a directory that
full
is
of files that are named. And maybe if you use something like Google Desktop
or SharePoint. SharePoint's actually pretty good.
SharePoint's getting better, but it's still not great.
Well, the thing SharePoint does is you can have versioning of documents that is transparent in the file system, but only if you set it up right.
Yeah, just so people know, SharePoint is Microsoft's solution to many of the things we are going to discuss in this series.
But not enough of them for it to be the solution.
Exactly. It's like it does some things. I've used it a couple times. Some of the things it does are kind of slick, and it's starting to go somewhere, but it's not complete. It leaves a lot of gaps. So you still need to, accommodate it with other things. But when those things don't integrate, so it's like, fuck. There's also other popular solutions out there, like Basecamp is a very popular solution to many of the things we're talking about here. But, its documentation is like these write boards, and it's pretty sad.
Yep. But what HR departments always seem to have slightly better documentation than everyone else. And I've noticed it's because HR people tend to have been trained in so-called Microsoft Office Suite power usage.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones who make the crazy Excel spreadsheet that auto-calculates everything when you should have just hired someone to make a web app.
Well, also, HR people, a lot of their job is procedures. Like, how do you sign someone up for the healthcare? How do you hire a new employee? How do you fire a new employee? What do you do if someone quits? What do you do, right? So all those procedures, they need to make sure they do those things fucking right.
Now.
And there's so they have, procedural documents explaining every single step they need to take. And every single form that needs to be, it's a lot of bureaucracy.
Imagine
bureaucracy
if you did that.
is always well documented.
The way tech people did that. Imagine if you used a ticketing system that had pre-created ticket types. So the HR person says, or someone in the company makes a ticket saying, yeah, we hired this person. And that automatically creates these work orders to all the HR people to do, work order to do all the business processes.
That's ticket system, but yeah.
Yes, but the ticket system sets up the workflow, and then there is documentation that is managed in an intelligent wiki-style way, version with certified versions. Like people collaborate, and then this is the current official version of the process for onboarding.
That's the kind of feature that not a lot of the documentation that even if setting up a wiki is a great start.
Well, here's the reason I say the two. The real problem is that there are solutions to all of these tiny problems, but none of the solutions integrate with each other. Mm-hmm. If the ticketing system made the work order to the HR person and linked to the most recent certified version of the procedure. Yep. And when they finished it, it closed it out. And then at the same time, that the process that you followed created all the secret documents about that person. Like it updated the database of all the HR, like all the HR stuff.
Well, you're going even beyond just the integration of the systems. You're actually going to the point where the systems enact some of the documented procedures.
Because no one is made. I mean, that's the pie in the sky dream of information management, as it should be, that you have technology that manages all of your information between all of your sources intelligently, regardless of the technical skills of the people involved, purely based on their knowledge skills in their relevant fields of expertise. We are currently nowhere near that.
No.
Instead, we have problems like, all right, get the HR people to use Twiki. They know how to use Word. They can't use an HTML WYSIWYG editor because HTML WYSIWYG editors, as everyone technological knows, require a lot of fiddling with the stupid HTML.
I think that is a major hurdle to wiki usage, is that no one can do any of the wiki languages or the WYSIWYG editors.
Don't try to teach them. I have tried. No. I've given classes. It will not happen.
You can maybe try to use like one of the markdown languages, one of the ones with simpler syntax.
No, that doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
No, my God. I tried to teach people TML, which is simple as shit.
It's just like use a bunch of equals under the header.
Nope, can't even do that.
Can't even do that.
So, WYSIWYG. But you all know, you're all tech people. You're listening to Geeknights Mondays. Half the time, you use WYSIWYG, but there's always like that extra bullet point. And then you hit the HTML button and you get rid of the extra bullet point. That is already beyond 99% of people.
Yep.
You can't. The WYSIWYG is not a solution because it does not work.
If you had one that worked, we could talk, but
there are ones that work.
Google Docs.
They're all for proprietary crappy wikis, or they're for things that aren't wikis.
Yeah. That is a big. And the other thing, right, is that, a wiki is good, but sometimes the documentation, you don't want a wiki necessarily.
Yes, well, look, wikis, the problem with wiki, especially Twiki, the philosophy is it's open. It is hard to lock stuff down.
Yeah, it's meant to be like Wikipedia. Like, we assume that every user is going to be able to edit anything.
Yep,
and then...
but say for HR, you have people collaborating in the wiki on, say, this is the procedure for setting up the healthcare. And you keep changing it, like the HR people will rewrite it as things change. But you need an official certified version that someone signed off on and a way to verify that.
Yeah.
And then you have like the development version that you keep editing.
Yeah, in a business, right? Even with a wiki with collaboration and nice things like that, not all users are created equal. You don't want, the normal employees to like be able to see the employee handbook that's still being worked on. You want them to only be able to see the newest version and that's it. You don't want them to be able to see old versions. You don't want them to be able to see working versions. You only want certain people to be able to look at the working version, and then even fewer people to actually be able to edit the working version, and only maybe one or two people to certify and make it the new version and get rid of the old one. And wikis just don't have the features for that kind of stuff.
You can do that with Twiki. Like, I'd set up a lot of stuff.
You also don't want you want everyone in the business to have the access they need to the same one system, but you don't want the secretary to see the tech documentation and like the IP addresses of all the network machines and shit.
Yep.
They can't be knowing that. And that no wiki takes care of that. Not that I've heard of.
Well, you can do it with a lot of wikis if you know about technology. I mean, I made a secure Twiki. People cannot read certain parts of the Twiki unless they either have root access on the server with Apache, which is me, so that's not a concern.
Yeah. Or
they're evil geniuses and they find some crazy cross-site scripting attack, which will be hard to do because it's behind a VPN anyway.
That's good.
And I made secret webs and I made certifications where you can certify a document. You can make all these workflows in Twiki to
you did plugins for all this stuff?
Yeah. The thing is, they're all not robust, not intuitive, and good God, if I ever am going to teach a non-technical person to use any of this shit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could. The setup doesn't necessarily need to be so easy for a normal person, but using has to be easy for a normal person. Otherwise, if you can't get every person in the company to use it, you're not. It doesn't matter even if it's perfect by what we say. If not everyone's using it, it's not working.
So what do we do? How do we document stuff? Here's the problem. There is no answer. We asked the question.
Even if everyone in the company is well-meaning and wants to document and knows it's for the best and agrees on an awesome wiki solution that's perfect and has all these features, and you got to do it too. It's like there's so many barriers to making it happen, and all of those things sort of, while they're good in the long run for awesomeness and having such, any business people always see you doing this, and they're like, "That's not working. You're not making me money right now."
I think what we need to outline is for documentation alone. Forget my pie in the sky. A documentation system that I would say solves this problem. One needs to involve for the majority of users no code or markup of any kind.
It has to be Microsoft Word or just Notepad.
It has to be Microsoft Word because people need to be able to format.
It could be WordPad.
Yeah, that level. It has to be that level, but it has to be that level that works perfectly.
You could use RTF, maybe.
Do you know how shitty RTF is under the covers?
Yeah, but I mean, if people are just uploading and editing, RTFs, like there are RTFs in the background, people are just editing them.
So what system do I use to share these collaboratively?
Well, you'll have a
And version
JavaScript
them.
RTF editor in the browser.
All right. So
I'm just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
So I think one way around this, if someone could come up with a sort of simple subset of HTML and make a WYSIWYG editor that only does that subset, that is actually perfect. There aren't any.
Well, you just have bold, italic, underline, big font, small font.
You need 6 heading levels.
Do you really need 6 heading levels?
Good God. Looking at you at least 5.
All right. So you have all the heading levels and then links.
But here's the thing. You need to be able to make boxes.
Colors.
You need to make like quote boxes.
Quote box.
You need to be able to indent without bullet points, which nothing freaking does. Because there is no good way to do that in HTML for good reason.
Yeah.
But you need it for a document management system. You need it for documentation. If you can't indent...
Well, what you could do is you could just have the CSS automatically set up such that, you have an H, a header, and then it'll indent, right? And then,
yeah, you could do that.
So the headers will automatically indent based on the header level.
But here's the thing. That implementation, we need something that does that. We don't need... I mean, I could make a system that does that for my company that serves all my purposes, but it won't get out there anywhere. We need someone to make something that just does.
There
all
are
of these
HTML
things.
WYSIWYG editors, but they're that have that limited subset, and they're used in forums and such. But they
don't work.
They don't work.
The thing that works the least are bullet points.
Yeah.
The thing that people need the most works the least.
Yep. Oh well.
Yep. And linking documents to other documents or categorizing documents needs to be intuitive.
That's the thing, is that even the simplest methods of linking, like camel case linking, people can't even write the thing in camel case.
Nope.
So I don't know how to make it easier. I give up.
Maybe just highlight it, click link, and then it gives you a GUI of find the document you want to link to.
I don't know. I just...
Yeah, I've gone lately with the route of creating, basically, I will get people who are non-technical who I want to document stuff. I will make all the framework and all the links, and I'll just make all the empty documents with sections that say, write a section on this here. Write a section on this here. And then they fill it in, and that works really well.
Yeah.
The other solution I have is that one department is getting an intern,
and
they gave
make the
me
interns do it.
They gave me the intern, and they said, make this intern write documentation for every business process my department has. He knows HTML.
Oh shit!
That kid is gonna
That's
have
a good idea.
That kid is gonna have a miserable summer.
He's gonna get some monies.
He's gonna get some money, and he's gonna learn some stuff. But
He's got some resumes.
He's not gonna have fun.
No, he's not. It's all right. Maybe he'll become an HTML documentation wiki master, and then he'll get a job making a better one, just that we want.
I don't know, but listeners, what do you think? Well, how do you document stuff? I know the answer is unknown.
I know that most of the people out there don't really care about all this business process shit, but we're giving you 3 or 4 shows on it, so shove it.
All right, I think we're done, partly because I really want some pizza.
Yeah, let's get some pizza.
All right. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.